Growing up as a lifelong Final Fantasy fan, I've been anticipating the release of Final Fantasy XVI. Thankfully, we've been given a chance to get a sneak peek with a hands-on demo, and I must say that I wasn't left wanting or disappointed, so I'd like to share my thoughts and opinions on the snippet of the game that we were allowed to play. To start things off, I've tried to avoid delving too deep into any promotional information about this game as possible. I watched a few trailers, but other than that, I wanted to go in as blind as I could manage. However, I can say that being a Final Fantasy XIV player, and knowing Yoshida's hallmarks in directing, if you know what to look for, the signs are certainly there that 14 and 16 were painted with similar brushes. There's a faction known as the Dalmekians that sound a lot like Dalmals. We have Mother Crystals and Ether. The icons involved in this game are all ones that appeared in A Realm Reborn. Oh, and if you like the snarky tooltips and item descriptions from 14, you'll like the ones in 16 too. But then I hear that the gameplay is being done by the battle director of Devil May Cry, and I knew this was a game I had to try to believe. I may not be the biggest fan of Devil May Cry, but the gameplay has always held such a high standard to me that I enjoy playing it more than most games. And if Yoshida could somehow combine the narrative and world building that I love from Final Fantasy and put it in together with the fast-paced and fluid over-the-top combat of Devil May Cry, then I have no doubt that this man can single-handedly carry Square Enix year after year like he has been of late. The game starts out by giving you a tutorial of the basic premise of combat. You can mash square for a 4-hit sword combo, and triangle is your magic attack. Circle starts out as a dash towards your opponent, but can change function later on. R1 is your dodge action, and if timed properly, can lead into a counterattack. Healing potions are also readily available by using the D-pad. The game also carries over the stagger gauge from recent mainline Final Fantasy titles. Suppressing the attack while being quick to evade is highly encouraged. You get a brief window of opportunity once the stagger gauge hits 50% to attack, and once it empties, you have an extended period of vulnerability to lay into them with your strongest attacks. Holding R2 gives you access to your iconic feats, which Clive starts out with the Phoenix to play around with. While at first the combat seems pretty basic, there are also skill trees you can spend ability points to build, giving you more flexibility in combat like aerial attacks, gap closers, and so much more. You can even spend additional ability points to enhance these same abilities, and if you decide you want to try something different, respecking is free, and you can do so at any time. Clive can also level up by amassing experience points at the end of each battle, improving his stats to better prepare you for the increasing difficulty of the battles as you progress. Once you complete the story portion of the demo, it gives you the opportunity to fast forward further into the game and play with more robust additions to the combat. You're faced with a higher volume of more advanced enemies. However, you get 2 more sets of iconic feats to play around with in the form of Titan's heavy-hitting punches and counters and Garuda's quick strings of furious attacks, as well as an ability that brings enemies within striking distance of you. You can switch between Phoenix, Garuda, and Titan by pressing L2, and this brings the gameplay to a whole new level, especially when you know that the full game will have even more icons to play with. The combat becomes incredibly fast-paced, chaining attacks and dodging into a counterattack is super fun, and it seriously feels like Devil May Cry with a Final Fantasy skin over the top. You can also have Clive's loyal dog Torgal as your party member, who you can command using the D-pad to attack alongside your sword swing, or heal you if you want to save your potions. Torgal will attack on his own, and he is very active and doesn't feel like his AI is lacking in terms of taking care of himself and responding to your commands. In comparison, however, the icon battle between Phoenix and Ifrit leaves much to be desired and is simply mashing triangle to attack and waiting to dodge at pre-scripted moments. It's a glorified cutscene that I honestly would have preferred just watching a world-famous Square Enix CG cutscene instead. If the other fights similar to this are treated much the same, I can't say the big blockbuster moments are going to rouse me quite as much as the devs hope. I enjoyed watching the two beat the ever-loving Chocobo shite out of each other rather than actually playing the fight, but the rest of the game makes up for these moments in my opinion. I'll take a moment to show you a whole fight uninterrupted, after which I'll be moving on to the story aspect of the demo. Take a look for yourself and see what you think.
Get him, boy! Too slow.
Now that you've seen some gameplay, I'll go into a brief rundown of the story for those interested. If you'd rather not be subjected to spoilers, you're more than welcome to click off here. But I appreciate you for watching this far. If you're enjoying the video, please leave a like and a comment on your thoughts below, and feel free to subscribe for more Final Fantasy content. The demo covers the first couple hours of Final Fantasy XVI, and the developers take the time to give you an aspect of curiosity and grand icon battles before carefully placing you into Clive's shoes to begin the slow process of introducing you to his loved ones and giving you a reason to care about him and those around him. At first I was preparing myself for Clive to be much like the protagonists in previous Final Fantasies before him, the brooding and sulking prince that complains about his lot in life and is generally more prickly than a cactuar, but it turns out that Clive is a very affectionate character who clearly cares for his little brother Joshua. He is kind to those who serve under him in the duchy, even the downtrodden slaves. Yes, we have slaves in this game, and yes, this guy is an asshole. Despite being the firstborn son to the Archduke of Rosaria, Clive was not born as the dominant of the Phoenix. Instead, that role goes to Joshua, who has a heightened affinity with its power and can transform into the icon at will. Joshua is also the heir to the throne, so Clive is simply passed up in the royal family, something his heifer of a mother loves to remind him about. But despite this, Clive doesn't play the victim or wish for something he doesn't have. Instead, he trains to be an upstanding soldier, to be the best protector his brother could ask for. I like this guy already. Joshua has a good head on his shoulders, even though he's still a child, but still stands to perform his duty for his people and become the Phoenix when they need him most, even if he thinks Clive is more fit for the role and he is still unsure of his abilities. I mean, come on, the kid's like 8 years old. I was expecting Joshua to be a snot-nosed brat rubbing his birthright in Clive's face, but no, he's actually a good kid with a heart of gold. Somehow, the kid took after his father, the good Archduke that cares about the people, and his sons, and not his mother, who literally calls Clive worthless and treats Joshua like the people should be groveling and kissing his feet. No wonder Elwyn is able to motivate Clive just by saying prove your mother wrong, but we'll get back to her in a moment. Jill is just kinda there for now. She's the cute love interest. She's shy and meek and gets emotional, but it's clear that Clive cares for her. So if he likes her, then I like her. But I'm also pretty sure that she's going to be super important later, but at least I'm cheering her on more than Lunafreya. And then we get to the best character in the whole game. Look at cute little Torgal! Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy? You are! Who's gonna grow up and fight the dominants alongside his master? You are! Who's gonna 360 rip and tear Benedicta's face? You are! Who's gonna give this game a 10 out of 10 game of the year? You are! Good boy, Torgal! Anyway, we go off on a mission to help Joshua commune with his ancestors to learn to control the Phoenix before a big battle. And then, wouldn't you know it, we get invaded by Imperials disguised by Rosarians by using the good old wooden horse trick. All hell breaks loose and all the heartbreak starts happening. We have the inciting incident that leaves Clive to go off to adulthood seeking revenge, and if you didn't hate the mother already, let me tell you she deserves all the world's best Mom of the Year award, 11 out of 10, such a loving and caring wife and mother. I hope Titan steps on her and turns her to pulp. So there you go, those are my thoughts on the Final Fantasy XVI demo. I think it gives us just enough to look forward to the main game that we have a substantial idea about what we're getting into. They've given us a hook into the story and also provide us with a decent grasp of what the gameplay loop will be like. For me, it kept me perfectly entertained with the mid-level combat, and even though the story started slow, it culminated into a heart-wrenching origin story for Clive. Most games usually save the flashback sequence for part of the way through the game, but 16 gives it to you near the beginning, and takes just the right amount of time and care to sympathize with Clive. I look forward to seeing the rest of his adventure next week. And if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all later.